Good morning. Welcome to the webinar Discover the Space Economy in Japan. We are going to start now, so thank you for being with us. First, I will just give you some practical information about the webinar. So as you probably noticed, your microphones are muted. So if you want to interact with us and send us some questions at any time, you can do it by using the questions tab. So you should see on the bottom right of your screen, there is a questions logo. So you can click there to then send us some questions. You will also receive the presentations from today after the webinar, so don't worry, we will have all the information shared today with links and contacts. And the webinar is also recorded and it will be available on Aerospace Valley YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch it or send it to anyone who might be interested, you will be able to do so. So now let me introduce myself and the speakers for today. So I am Annelise Stéphan. I'm the METASTARS project manager at Aerospace Valley. And Aerospace Valley is a French cluster that supports the aerospace and defense ecosystem in the southwest of France. And we are coordinating a European project called METASTARS, which is funded by the Single Market Program. And the objective of METASTARS is to support the aerospace and defense ecosystem in Europe, and more specifically SMEs. So this webinar is organized as part of the METASTARS project. It is also organized in partnership with the EU-Japan Center for Industrial Cooperation. So there is with us today Luca Escoffier, which is project manager at the EU-Japan Center for Industrial Cooperation. So hello, Luca. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yes, hi. Nice to see you all. Thank you, Valentin, Annelise, Eugenio, of course, for being also with me today as a co-speaker, and of course, all of you that are with us this morning.
And we are very pleased to have with us also Eugenio Realini, who is the CEO of Geomatics Research and Development, an Italian SME. So welcome, Eugenio. Thank you for being with us also today.
Thank you, Annelise, and Valentin and Luca for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here.
And finally, there is also Valentine Verger, who's project manager at Aerospace Valley, and she's the one who will take your questions during this webinar. So now let me just introduce you the agenda for today. So first, I will start by giving you a short presentation of METASTARS project and how we can support SMEs and their internationalization to Japan with METASTARS. Then you will have a presentation from Luca Escoffier about the Space Japan Help Desk and the space market in Japan. And then Eugenio Realini will share with us their experience from Geomatics Research and Development and how they started working with Japan. And finally, we'll have some time dedicated to your questions. So if there's something you want to ask which is not covered in the presentation, you will be able to send us the questions. So first, let's start with METASTARS project. So as I was saying before, METASTARS is a project funded by the European Union. It's one of a number of Euro clusters that are funded by the Single Market Program. And these projects aim specifically at supporting the aerospace and defense ecosystem in Europe and SMEs. So with the METASTARS, we want to help SMEs to fully recover from the pandemic crisis and also to be more resilient to future shocks in the market. So to do that, we are focusing on a few aspects. We are supporting SMEs to develop more innovative and new services. We also support them accessing new markets in other sectors that might be connected to aerospace and defense. We also help them with providing new skills to their employees, connecting with a lot of stakeholders in the aerospace and defense ecosystem. And finally, we also help SMEs increase their business development in 2 foreign markets, so in Canada and Japan specifically. So this is why we are organizing this webinar today about the space economy in Japan. And to reach these objectives, we have a methodology which is twofold. So there is a first set of activities dedicating to the creation of an alliance with all relevant stakeholders who can support aerospace and defense SMEs. So we are working on this with the EACP network. So EACP is the European Aerospace Cluster Partnership. And then we have another set of activities more directly dedicated to SMEs and clusters. So we are organizing workshops and webinars on relevant topics for aerospace and defense. So like this webinar today. And we also support more directly SMEs by financing projects and services. So we had a call for project that successfully closed in June, and so we are supporting 11 innovative projects with METASTARS, and we have another call which might interest you, which is a call for innovative services. So this call is still open. And with our call for services, we are financially supporting SMEs who want to get support from external consultants or external providers on a list of topics that we selected and that are relevant for the development. So the call is still open. It will end at the end of December, but it works on a first arrived, first served basis. So it might close earlier if we allocate all the budget before that deadline. So you can see on the screen the different services that are available, and we already allocated the budget for 2 of them. So this is why you can see that 2 topics are crossed on the slide, but we can still receive application on the 4 remaining topics. So you can still apply for green technology development or digitalization. So this might be interesting for you if you want to develop a new product or service that is greener or more digital. And also if you need external support to implement a greener or more digital process internally in your company. So you can apply for financial support. So support, it takes the form of a lump sum that is paid at the end of the service. So you can see for each service the maximum amount that you can apply for. And then we have 2 internationalization services to Canada and Japan. So you can apply to that if you want to receive the support of an external consultant to develop or implement an internationalization strategy to Japan or Canada. And you can also apply if you are planning a trip to Canada or Japan, or to attend a conference, because travel expenses, accommodation, and entrance fees to conference are also eligible. So applications are still open, but we are reaching the end of the budget and the lump sums available. So if you want to apply, I really encourage you to do it as soon as possible to be next in line to have your application evaluated. You can find all the information about this call on METASTARS website. And we have a guide for applicants on the website. So I also recommend you to carefully read this guide if you apply to check all the eligibility criteria, because you can apply only once. You can apply for 2 different services, but you can only submit 1 application, and you cannot change it or add something else once it's submitted. And you can see now who are our partners on the METASTARS project. So as I mentioned before, we are working with EACP, which is an associated partner for METASTARS, but we also have 3 partners who are other European clusters in aerospace and defense. So we are working with Aviation Valley in Poland, CTA in Spain, and Corelia in Greece. And finally, if you want to stay in touch with us, you can find all the information on our website. So we have a page dedicated to METASTARS on Aviation Valley website. You will get the link in the presentation that you will see afterwards. This is also on this website. Yeah, you can find the open call for services. You can contact me for any question at metastars-eu@aerospacevalley.com. And I also mentioned, if there are participants from clusters with us today, that we have an open survey dedicated to aerospace and defense clusters, because with METASTARS, we are going to draft a portfolio of services that are available for SMEs all across Europe in aerospace and defense. So if you are a cluster and you want to have your services registered in our portfolio, you can complete the survey before the end of September. And so that's it for me about METASTARS. I will now leave the mic to you, Luca, so you can tell us more about the work you are doing with the EU-Japan Center for Industrial Cooperation, and also give us some information about the space markets in Japan.
Thank you. Thank you, Annelies. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you well.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thanks again to you all. Thank you for being with us this morning. I'm kind of cheating with you because I'm not in Japan, as you might have guessed from my background with this Venetian painting. I'm actually in Italy, so I'm talking to you from Europe. So it's morning for me as well. And but I will be back to Japan very soon. So I would like to introduce you today to a little bit of myself, to the activities of the center, and more specifically to the activities of the Space Japan Help Desk. So if we can move to onto the other slide. Yes, perfect. So I know that today is about space, but let me give you a little bit of flavor about the center's activities, because maybe some of you do not know the center yet. And all of you, as far as I know, today are belonging to SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises that are located in the EU, mostly. So let me tell you what the center does, what the center is. The center is a joint venture between the EU Commission and the Japanese government that has a long history, dates back to the late 80s, so more than 30 years, 36 to be precise. And we are divided, we're split as colleagues between Tokyo and Brussels. And our main mission is to help you out, you as SMEs, thrive and try to find collaboration agreements, partners for increasing industrial cooperation between the two regions. For some activities, we do also cover other geographies, but this is another story. We can talk about that maybe in a one-to-one meeting, but let's talk about the EU-Japan cooperation. We have a series of, let's say, services that we offer beside the digital resources that you can find on the website of the center. There is a wealth of knowledge there. You can download reports, you can check videos, you can find basically, hopefully, everything you need to better understand the Japanese market, how to enter it, how to establish the company, how to establish a representative office, how to get funding, etc., etc., etc. Of course, not just that, you can also be in touch with us, with me and my colleagues. We'll be happy to help you out depending on the topics that you're interested in. So for example, in my case, I run two services at the center. One is called Technology Transfer Help Desk. I try to connect academia with companies, companies with companies, to potentially licensing deals, as the name suggests, technology transfer, but not only that. I also try to help companies find distributors, in general, potential buyers. So in any case in which you're interested and you have a tech company, because I do specialize in that area, and you're interested in the Japanese market, I'm probably the person you may want to get in touch with. So at the end of the presentation, of course, there's also my will be my contact details. So please do send me an email, and we can try to have a chat and talk about your company you're interested in the Japanese market. We are also an entity that is representing several flagship programs of both regions, and I just want to mention a few. So for example, the EEN. The EEN is the Enterprise Europe Network, is also a program of the Commission that has been going on for quite some time, and it covers 600 locations in around 70 countries, so much bigger than the EU geography. Is also covering Japan, of course, where we are the only contact point reference for those interested in the program, and also many other countries outside of the EU, and more than 3,000 local experts. So experts are people like myself or colleagues that are working in entities like chambers of commerce, trade agencies, innovation agencies, EU Japan Center, etc., etc. So we also represent some initiatives like the Enterprise Europe Network, and we have, of course, connections with our colleagues in mostly in Europe, of course. If we can move to the next slide. Yes, I can introduce you to just to give you a glimpse of other initiatives that might be of interest to you. As I said, this center is offering kind of a bouquet of services, so you can pick and choose among many things that might be of interest to you. They can be complementary, so you have no limits. And let me tell you, everything is free of charge. So don't be shy. Just be in touch if you're interested, and you can tap into other resources. So here I listed a couple of other some other initiatives and services like the EPA help desk with support for USMEs that are trying to leverage the possibilities to import part of those services in Japan. We have a public procurement help desk that is also dealing with tax topics. We have the tech transfer help desk, which is the one I do run that I just mentioned. We have the EN that I just mentioned, and then Space Japan, that is the one that also I represent today in front of you. We also have other help desks that now I do not spend much time referring to, but if you're interested, you can just check the website of the center and you will find all the relevant information from our newly refreshed website. I would move to the next slide. Perfect. To continue and probably conclude, if I remember well, with other things that might be of interest, we have programs like STEP in Japan, that is basically support given to SMEs that are interested in checking the possibility to enter the Japanese market by spending some time with us in our office in Tokyo. Of course, depending on the availability of the office, we have some space cubicles that are reserved for SMEs that they want to spend some time, up to 4 weeks in our Tokyo office, and also benefiting not just from the space, but also the presence of myself and my colleagues. So also talking to us on a daily basis. If you're interested, we have also a program for selected companies to receive a personalized business plan or a marketing plan that is called Eyes on Japan. We do organize matchmaking missions in Japan for clusters or individual SMEs that they, of course, vary in terms of topics. So they might be related to biotech, they may be related to digital, they may be related to nanotech, and so on. So I really urge you to constantly take a look at the website, because we have open calls to, of course, attract companies that want to participate and come to Japan. And of course, you can register to our newsletters to be also informed and up to speed. We also have a program that allows companies to host an engineering student for 1 year in Europe, as well as we have the same for the Japanese market, but you are in Europe, so you may be interested in this option. It's called Volcanoes in Europe. And if you're interested, I can put you in touch with my colleagues that are managing that service. And then we also have a EU Food to Japan that is supporting EU food producers seeking to export their products to Japan as well. This is just, as I said, a non-exhaustive list of services that we offer and aids that we offer to SMEs. So if you are interested in more, just be in touch with me. If we can move to the next slides. Yes, so we can finally talk about Space Japan and the help desk that I do run in tandem with also my colleague Fabrizio, that is based with me and like me in Tokyo. And so Space Japan has a little bit shorter history than the center itself, but still we've been working on this topic for quite some time. We worked also on several funded projects, including one probably the most relevant, that it was called Genesis Asia, that ran until the end of 2021. And we have, of course, a dedicated space on the website where we update the webpage with the relevant information. But if you want to have, of course, more updated news, you can always be in touch directly with me. It is interesting for us to work in this area, because it seems that there is quite a natural complementarity between the two region, where there are a lot of companies that are still involved in kind of the hardware and very heavy industries, and new companies that are leveraging the power of digital technologies and let's say leveraging the space imagery that is offered by satellites and so forth. So it is a very good moment for us to be kind of a trade union between the two regions, because there is this kind of a natural complementarity that we see. If you can move to the next slide, I can probably go a little bit deeper into the things that we do. So we have an information help desk that is trying to offer as much as we can answers to inquiries, particularly about Copernicus and Galileo. We also offer a series of webinars that we started around 1 year ago, I would say, that are offered on an almost monthly basis with EU and Japanese companies that we select and we want to present to our audience that is present during the webinars. So if you're interested, as I guess, to be one of the, let's say, the guests in one of the webinars, please do be in touch with me and we can have a chat. I can tell you that as of now, I'm fully booked until the end of November. So if you're interested, we have to think about something that is going to be after December. We do also organize events. We participate in events. As I told you, we are based mostly in Japan. So some of the events that we do organize personally are in Japan. The ones that we also attend mostly are in Japan. I will tell you at the end of my presentation the ones that are now about to happen. You might be interested in some of them if they're hybrid, maybe to join virtually, or you can also decide to come if you have time and you want to meet us in person. We can maybe move on. Perfect. So I can start with a little bit more precision to give you some ideas of the things that we have done. As I told you, we were the partners to this EU-funded project called GNSS Asia that ran between 2012 and 2021, as you can see. And basically what we did in this time was to provide, let's say, a picture of the situation in our relevant market, in the Japanese market, by also contributing to the creation of reports like the one that you see down here on your right. So this was an example of one of the market technology trends report that we drafted for the project. And of course, we answered inquiries during this time. We also, let's say, facilitated as much as we could in general the dialogue between the two regions. We worked with startups from the EU that were interested in approaching the Japanese market, and we did that virtually or also in person when the case allowed these companies to travel to Japan. So it was a great experience, and of course, even though the project is ended, we continue providing basically this kind of services to the eligible entities that are approaching us. If we can move on to the next slide. Yes, this is an example of one of the main activities that we ran and that I participated in because I joined the Space Japan Help Desk in 2021. So this was my first event on space-related matters, and we participated in Aeromart that took place in Japan in October between the 12th and the 14th, and we participated both on site and online. So we facilitated the introduction of the companies that you see here in the slide. It's a little bit small, but I can tell you that we're some 6 companies from the EU that participated in the project, and they were basically able online for these matchmaking activities with the Japanese potential customers and partners. So this is a screenshot depicting the virtual showroom, the virtual booth that we made for the event. If we can move on. Yes, This is how the webinars are being promoted. So we, as I said, talk to companies that are either based in EU or in Japan. We craft a flyer with the basic information about the title and the description of the topic that will be dealt with during the webinar. And then we usually have webinars in the morning CET, which is afternoon in Japan. And these are some of the example of the past webinars we have with startups and SMEs in general from the EU and Japan. We can move on to the next slide to give you other examples. So we had companies from Italy, we had companies from Portugal, we had companies from Germany. We can move on again to the next one. Yes, we had a company also from France, as you could see from the previous one. So we are, of course, very open to work with companies from any country that belongs to our jurisdiction, let's say. So please, if you're interested, be in touch. This is an example with the exploration company with one of the last webinars that we had in June on the 29th. We can move on. This is the flyer of the upcoming webinar, which is on September 27. So actually, I will be sending out the invites and the promotion in the next couple of days. But just to let you know, if you're interested, we are having a webinar with a Japanese company called Tenchijin, that is a JAXA certified startup that is providing water leakage risk mapping solution, among other things. We will be talking about this technology on September 27. So I will be more than happy to, of course, have you all on board on that day as well. And we'll be starting from 10 a.m. CET. Thank you. We can move on to this one that is also particularly important, the presentation about ICX, the International Space Exhibition that took place this year, the beginning of this year at Tokyo Big Sight, which is one of the two major fair-related facilities in Japan. Tokyo Big Sight is in the Bay in Tokyo, so very central. And we participated as a EU Japan Center and Space Japan help desk to the fair. So we had a booth that was luckily for us attached to the one of JAXA. So we had a great exposure. We had the opportunity to represent 7 selected EU SMEs that you can see here, Super Garden, G-Red, and with Eugenio that is with us today. Sidereus Space Dynamics, Peak Technology, Iguazu Space System, Rokubun, and Kylabs. So these are some of our long-standing friends and clients. Eugenio and G-Red are definitely one of the examples that will be brought to your attention, but I leave this to, of course, to Eugenio. So this is also to tell you that we really love to take care of our clients. When you start having a relationship with us and you start having a collaboration with us, we really want to help you as much as we can. So it's not a single individual event that we can do together, or the fact that you can join us in a mission, but it's a long lasting relationship that we try to establish with you. Also because we need to have a little bit of patience, and we have to believe in medium long-term results. So it takes really time also to establish a relationship. We can move on also to the next slide. Yes, sorry, you can go back with the pictures. Yes, this is some pictures that we took, of course, during the event with some people that visited the booth. These on the left are the flyers of the companies that we represented. We had more than 100 people that visited the booth and asked for information, and of course read the flyers and brought the flyers away with them, and also request after, of course, the event. So for us, was the first time that we participated in this, I would say, relatively new event, a kind of exhibition that has been created in Japan. But we're probably planning to participate also in the next edition, which will also take place in the beginning of 2024. So I probably can say that we will be again, also running shortly a new call for applications for representing a certain number of SMEs, again, at the fair. We can probably move on. Yes, and also with the next one. Yes, so these are some of the events that are going to take place in the upcoming months. Luckily, I will be leaving for Japan early next week, so I will be able to attend Space Link, which is going to be on September 13, so next week. And Space Link is a relatively also new event that gained quite a number of participants in the last edition, where I had the chance to go. And basically, as you can see from the next slide, most of the main names that we hear and we know from Japan are going to be represented. So you see companies like Warp Space, Elevation Space, Diamond, Corns Technologies, Digital Blast, that is the company organizing the event, the HOSPO, the Hokkaido Spaceport, and so on. This is, of course, not an exhaustive list. So it's some of the companies that will be present next week. And so if you're interested, you're not able maybe to come next week to Japan, but you're interested in some of the companies that are going to be present next week, please do be in touch with me so that we can maybe think about asking questions, inquiries to the companies that I will meet in person in a matter of days, so that we can start working together maybe on some specific and very practical case. We can move on to ICX. As I told you, the ICX is open. To be extremely precise, the dates are the following. So from February 20th to the 22nd, 2024 at Tokyo Big Sight. So these are the dates. Usually, last time when we had a representation of the companies, we didn't opt for the online version because we were present there. So we don't ask you to wake up like at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. to be on the phone or on Teams or Zoom for a call with these companies. We will be doing that for you. If you make yourself available, just in case, of course, there is a very pressing inquiry during the fair and you want to participate and be available, that's super fine. I would be more than happy to have you. But we will be basically taking care of you during the fair, which is going to be held between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., which is 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. CET time. So if you are interested, please be in touch again with me. As I said, probably the call will be launched in the coming weeks, months, and then we will proceed, of course, with the selection of the SMEs that we will be representing at the event. We can move on, yes, to the next slide. And again, yes, this is a super quick kind of overview of, let's say, companies that are active in the space industry that we kind of divided into subsectors. So in terms of satellites, space transportation and exploration, payloads technologies, in-space operations, and other major entities that might be involved in the space industry, like JAXA or Mitsui Engineering and Shipbuilding, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and so forth. So these are the names, as you heard from Annelise. Anyway, the video will be available, the slides will be available, so I don't want to waste your time going through all the names of the companies. Most of you probably already know all of these companies, but it was just a way to kind of somehow categorize the entities by sectors of operation. And as you can see, some of them are also included in different areas because they do have operations in different areas as well. We can move on to the next, and I just wanted to kind of mention some of the main activities. There are a lot of things going on in the space industry in Japan. We hear about Japan on a daily basis. Of course, it's one of the countries with the highest number of operations and activities, both run directly by the exploration agency, by JAXA, or by entities that are kind of working with JAXA or independently. One of the recent news of a couple of months ago was the interest of JAXA to directly invest also in companies that are working in the space industry. Still, I don't know about the funding and what kind of how this funding will actually happen, but this was a recent news from I think from June. This is an example of one of the main projects of JAXA, this X-ray telescope that has been actually sent to space today after some postponement due to weather conditions, was sent today to space together also with a lunar lander. So it left Japan's soil today and is directed to space. So a very timely presentation for this. We can move on to the next slide. I just wanted to mention, as I said, there are a lot of things going on, but just to mention some other notable space-related activities that are not taking place necessarily in this fiscal year. Actually, as you can see, we're talking about 2024, 2025. As I mentioned, there was an interest, very recent news about this interest and intention of JAXA to invest directly in space development related companies. There is, of course, a very high interest in creating new structures that are able to harvest solar power from space to then channel it towards Earth. And Japan, of course, is not the only country that is doing that, but this is definitely an interest. The interest is very high, and it seems that some initiatives will be probably ready to go by year 2025. There was an interesting news a couple of weeks ago about the launch in 2024 of Wooden satellite. It was an experiment done by Japanese scientists on the ISS, on the International Space Station, about the possibility to create small satellites in wood. And specifically, I think if I remember well, the kind of wood was the one of magnolia trees that apparently can undergo space conditions pretty well, and of course assure a re-entry into Earth's orbit by destroying itself, made being of course of wood. So we will see that in 2024, hopefully. And then I also wanted to report also another initiative that I found in the news from RIKEN, one of the Japan's largest research institutions that probably most of you already know, that has a project with another Japanese company, Mitsui Bussan Aerospace, and a European company called Nanoavionics on a project called NinjaSat 1 X-ray observatory mission. This is one of the many activities that are ongoing or they're about to happen, but I just wanted to give you kind of a glimpse of what is about to happen. Of course, if you're more interested in specific areas, specific projects, we can talk one-to-one. We can be in touch, and I can try to do my best to help you out and find additional information or opportunities that you might want to leverage. We can probably go to the next slide that I think is the last one. Yes, that's me and Fabrizio. So I would leave this maybe for a couple of seconds to you so that you can grab your pen or type on your computer and get our email addresses so that you can, or scan. If you have a phone, you can scan the QR code so that you are able to talk to us. As I said, let me spend another 30 seconds to tell you, I talked to you about the activities of the Space Japan Help Desk, but as you could see from the beginning of the presentation when I introduced you to all the other services, this is a potpourri of services that go well together. They are complementary. So once we're together, we can help you kind of tailor your interests and kind of think of a path and a little bit of strategy to work with us on different things. And for example, Eugenio, that is going to be the next speaker, is a typical example of this, because Eugenio worked with me and with us as a center on several initiatives. So he's a typical example of how a company can leverage the potential and the services of the center. Without further ado, thank you again for the time that you spent with me and with us, and please be in touch, because I would love to talk to you and work on new exciting projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Luca, for your presentation and all this information about the work you're doing at the Space Japan Help Desk and information about the space market in Japan. So now I will let Eugenio presenting what they're doing with JRED and also how they started approaching the Japanese markets. I want to highlight the fact that JRED is one of the beneficiaries of METASTARS Innovation Services for internationalization. So we are very happy to hear about the work you started doing with Japan and the next step for you. So Eugenio, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Annelise, and thank you, Luca, for mentioning our long-term relationship that I will go through in this presentation. And thank you all for joining this webinar. So in this presentation, I will give an overview of what we do as JRED and how we approach the Japanese market over the last few years. I am Eugenio Realini, I'm the CEO of the company. Next slide, please. JRED stands for Geomatics Research and Development. We are an SME founded in 2012 as a spin-off company of Politecnico di Milano in Italy. And the main areas of business are two. One is GNSS data processing, mostly for monitoring applications. So as we will see in a moment, continuous monitoring of displacement of structures or ground deformations, and gravity data processing, mainly for geophysical exploration, which means the exploration of natural resources in the underground. In general, we are expert in geodetic data modeling and analysis. We are a small company. We are 8 PhDs in geodesy and geomatics and 1 software engineer. Next slide, please. So Luca already mentioned GNSS. Just let me give a very quick explanation for those of you who might not be familiar with the term. GNSS stands for Global Navigation Satellite System. You might be for sure familiar with the term GPS, Global Positioning System, that is the constellation, the satellite constellation of the USA. But over the years, other constellations were launched as well, such as the European Galileo, the Russian GLONASS, Beidou for China, and the two regional systems, QZSS for Japan and IRNSS for India. And when you refer to all these satellite constellations, typically we use the term GNSS. Next slide, please. So what we developed in JRED, starting from, well, basically just after founding the company, and on the, let's say, on the foundation of what we did during our university years. We all had some research background in the university. We developed, sorry, I hear some noise. I don't know. I hear some kind of alarm. I don't know what it is. Okay, sorry. Sorry about that. So I was saying that we developed the GeoGuard monitoring system. That is a system that is then actually taken to the market as a service that is meant for detecting and monitoring displacement at the millimeter level of structures, infrastructures, or ground deformation. And what we do, we deploy sensors that are in this slide are identified as GMU, GeoGuard monitoring units, on the area or asset to be monitored. These sensors that are GNSS receivers and antenna receive GNSS signals, transmit the so-called GNSS raw data on our cloud, where we process them, and we provide our customers with information about the movements that the asset of interest is undergoing. Next slide, please. what appear just above the cloud area is our software Breva. That is the software that we have developed over the years and that we use for the GNSS data processing and to achieve, let's say, the high performance monitoring that we can provide with GeoGuard when using both geodetic grades that are high level, let's say expensive professional equipment, but also the so-called low-cost mass market GNSS equipment. And we can see here some examples of deployment of GNSS receivers and antennas on assets to be monitored. We see from left to right hydropower dam and 3 cases of deployment on bridges. You see the small white dome is the GNSS antenna. As you can see, as you can recognize, if you are in the field of GNSS, it is a low-cost GNSS antenna. Costs just the order of hundreds of euro, and that is fixed to the point to be monitored so that we can track the movement of that specific point. For example, that specific area of the bridge that you can see in the middle picture over time with millimeter precision. Next slide, please. Here are some other examples, again, from left to right, a dam, 2 dams, a bridge and another dam. And next slide, please. Other examples, in this case, we deployed the system to monitor the movement of penstock, again, to produce hydropower energy. And you can see that in some cases we have deployments in challenging conditions, such as up high on the mountains. On the left, you can see an installation at more than 2,000 meters of altitude, while on the right you can see a deployment on the basically at the foot of a very tall viaduct, and that poses a challenging environment for GNSS signal reception, as you can imagine, being the sky almost significantly covered by the structure of the bridge itself. So despite all these challenging environments, with our Breva GNSS processing software, we managed to achieve millimeter level precision anyway. Next slide, please. Other examples here, you see again on the left a penstock, then a building, a retaining wall, and another dam. So as you can see from this carousel of photos, we have deployed and we have tested extensively GeoGuard in several environments to monitor several kinds of structures and ground movements. But we did it mostly in Italy. So let's say 95% of our deployments are in Italy. So that's why we started evaluating the possibility to export what we do to Japan. Next slide, please. This is an example of the results that we provide to our customers. Here we are seeing the monitoring of a landslide. You see on the left a map with the dots, 7 dots that represent the 7 GNSS monitoring units that we have deployed on the landslide. On the right, the plots of the detected movements over time from 2019 to 2021. And you can see that we can detect very clearly the movements undergone by this specific landslide. Some points were moving more than others, some points were still, and this is the kind of information that can be used by our customers to take decision on for example, in this case, on whether to evacuate a town just below the landslide, or whether to close or not the bridge that we are monitoring, and so on. and we provide these results to the customer through a web-based dashboard, through SMS for the warnings, through emails for reports, and so on. Next slide, please. So having described what we do with GeoGuard, let me go to the real content that I would like to transmit in this presentation, that is how we approach the Japanese market, and so how we tried to export what we are doing mostly in Italy with GeoGuard to Japan. First of all, why Japan? Let's say that starts from my own personal experience, because I lived and worked in Japan for almost 5 years, from 2009 to 2014. I did 2 postdocs at Japanese universities, Osaka City University and Kyoto University. Then I returned to Italy in 2014, and I joined GRED. And that's when we started developing the GeoGuard system. And just after 1 year, in 2015, we first contacted the EU Japan Center for Industrial Cooperation, actually through the Enterprise Europe network that Luca mentioned earlier. And just after that, we applied right away for the Keys to Japan program that Luca mentioned. That is a program that provides European SMEs with a market entry business plan for the Japanese market. We applied, and we were selected, and we completed it in 2017. So we got a business plan developed by Japanese experts to introduce GeoGuard in Japan. Then in 2017, we started cooperating with GNSS.Asia. Again, Luca mentioned it. It's a EU Japan Center partner. Was a EU Japan Center partner since it stopped in 2021, but back then it gave us huge help in promoting what we were doing with GeoGuard in Asia in general, and specifically we targeted Japan again. And also thanks to that, we started collaborating with a Japanese company in 2019. And we started, let's say, going a little bit more practical on what we could achieve and what we could do in Japan. So we started discussing with this company. We were, let's say, looking for a local partner, basically, because as you can imagine, exporting what a company does, especially when it involves hardware and deploying of sensors and so on, requires a local partner to not just, let's say, to find customers and to interact with customers, but also to deploy the instrument and so on. So we started exploring what we could do with this Japanese company partner. And in 2021, we published an article on GeoGuard on the GNSS.Asia website. We joined the GNSS.Asia Global Meetups event, where we interacted with more potential partners and identified some more competitors, more than those that were identified in the business plan that was done through Keys to Japan in 2017. Then we started again in 2021 to cooperate with the manager of Space.Japan. At the time, he was the predecessor of Luca. He was a Japanese guy who gave us a big hand in moving forward with our intentions to move to the Japanese market. And then in 2021, we started collaborating with Luca. And also thanks to that, to the very good synergy that we managed to establish between GRED and Luca, we started, let's say, moving on faster on the Japanese market. Next slide, please. And in fact, you can see here, I started breaking down 2022 in months, because 2022 is when we started doing several things. We had several experiences. So in February, we joined the Innovation Leader Summit online, the ILS. Again, thanks to Luca's support and the EU Japan Center support. And it was a very good occasion to start, let's say, interacting a bit more deeply with prospect customers in Japan. And in July, we presented Giret Business at one of the webinars that Luca presented earlier, organized by the center. In November, we joined again the Innovation Leader Summit, but it was, let's say, the physical version of the event that started again after COVID. So we had the chance, again, through the invaluable support of the EU Japan Center, to join the Innovation Leader Summit in person in Tokyo. And at ILS, we strengthened, so we interacted with lots of Japanese companies and stakeholders, more than 30, as you can see there, in the 3 days that we joined the event, basically. And we also had the chance to meet again our Japanese partner company. And let me stress, it's always important to meet in person, especially with Japanese counterparts, because they value significantly, well, very much the in-person communication and in-person exchanges. So ILS in Tokyo gave us the chance to do that. You see some photos of us at ILS, of our presentation of GeoGuard at the EU Japan Center booth, and us interacting with prospect customers and stakeholders at ILS. Next slide, please. 2023, again, broken down in months. In February, we joined ICX that Luca mentioned just a moment ago, remotely, meaning that, as Luca mentioned, Giret was promoted on site at ICX 2023 by EU Japan Center staff. Then in April, we took the chance to travel again to Japan and to meet in person with our partner company. And both, let's say, on the follow-on, let's say, of ILS and these meetings in person with the partner company, we managed to set up a first proof of concept for a Japanese customer, which actually we met at ILS, basically through our Japanese partner company, because, as I said, interacting, well, you can imagine it's already hard to export one's business abroad. It's especially hard to export your business to Japan because it's not just for the language, which would be the case also for other countries, but the culture is very different and so on. So interacting with the prospect customers is more challenging, and so having either the help of agencies like the EU Japan Center, or even better, having a local partner company that can help in the process is fundamental. So we managed to starting, let's say, setting up this first proof of concept, which is meant to be completed by the end of 2023 and to start in 2024. And in July, we applied to METASTARS internationalization to Japan service call, and we were awarded a grant to support our next business trip in Japan, which will happen in 2024, when we are planning to join a couple of fairs, among which the ICX 2024, and again to meet with our Japanese partner company and hopefully to interact with our first customer there and show them the hopefully good results of our first proof of concept with them. And what we are hoping to achieve from 2024 onward is to strengthen the expansion on the Japanese market, starting from this first POC that we are setting up right now. And that's about all I had to present. Next slide, please. It's just the my contacts. In case you are interested, feel free to contact me. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenio, for sharing with us your experience with the Japanese market and telling us how you approach these markets. We are going now to take some time to answer questions. So if you want to ask something to Luca or Eugenio and you didn't do it yet, you can still send us questions. So you can see on your screen on the bottom right, you have a question logo. So you can go through this logo to send us questions. So now I will let Valentine tell us if you already have questions from the audience.
We do have already some questions. So the first one is for you, Luca. Hi, Luca. Any expectation of another phase of GNSS Asia? We can hear you. I think you turn off your mic.
What about now?
Perfect.
Okay. A good question. I'm sorry. My answer is not as good. I don't know. I would love to. It was an incredible experience that I joined at the very last moment because I joined the project Space Japan in 2021, so it was near to the end. But yes, it was really good. So I hope so.
Okay, thank you. Someone told us that just the QR code of Eugenio did not work from your presentation. I think it's yours, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe Lucas.
Oh, maybe Lucas one. Oh, sorry. I thought I saw
my
one.
QR code. Okay, but I think it probably was the LinkedIn profile or anyway. See, if you send me an email.
Okay. We have another question. Can you talk a bit about JAXA's procurement approach? Do they demand a certain amount of certification and registration if they accept foreign companies, etc.?
Always for me, I guess.
Yes, still for me. Okay. For you, sorry.
Good question. We do have a report available online on this. So if this person, he or she, sends me an email, I'll be happy to share the link or the report itself. And this is a study that a colleague of mine made on this topic. So it's the 26-page report, something like that. So there's enough information, I think, to understand how the process works. And it's fairly recent as well. So I would recommend to read the report.
Okay. Thank you. I do have another question for you, Luca. Does the EU Japan Center have a newsletter or some kind of notification system on new opportunities that come up, maybe for your actualities or new event on your agenda?
Very good question. We do have, actually, we have more than one. So we do not have one of the Space Japan. But we have a section on the website with the news and all the upcoming events. So everything is there. Then we have a general newsletter of the center, and then we have, let's say, specific topic related newsletter. So for example, the Tech Transfer Help Desk has one that is a quarterly newsletter. Space Japan everything is on the website. And then, of course, as long as you belong and you participate in one of the events, one of the webinars, for example, then we add you automatically to the mailing list for the next invitations. So, but if someone is particularly interested in he or she can just send me an email, and I will add this person to the mailing list.
Sure, and if someone doesn't have the time to take the email, you can also reply to us, and we will give you, if Eugenio and Luca agree, we will give you their contacts. We have someone else. It's for Eugenio. Someone maybe have some working in the same area as you and would like to get in touch with you. So I will give you the name of the concerned one.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. I do have also the question for you, Eugenio. How do you handle the time difference in communicating, with your partner and potential clients? I guess in Japan.
Yeah, that's a bit of a challenge, of course. We tend to use just a few hours that overlap with the business hours. So basically, we are based in Italy, so we are depending 7 or 8 hours off from Japan. So the early morning in Italy is late afternoon in Japan. We tend to organize all the calls and everything in that time frame, just 2 or 3 hours from 8 a.m. to 11.
Okay, thank you. I think you do have some other questions.
Yes, I actually have questions for you. First, Luca, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you see a lot of complementarities right now between Japan and Europe. Can you tell us more about what Japanese companies might be looking for right now, what type of services, products, or expertise might be interesting for them at the moment?
Sure. That's a good question. Well, these are markets in which, in both areas, we do have companies that are into hardware and software as well. But in my last experience, from what I see in terms of also funding, in terms of startup ecosystem, still I can see that there is a high majority of companies from the EU that is software related, and from Japan that is hardware related. So that's why I was talking about complementarities. And in terms of what is needed, this is a little bit tricky. I think that what one region offers is pretty a potential good fit for the other. It's a matter of, and this is a general consideration, it's not just about space-related ventures, but in general about EU-Japan relationships between companies. Like Eugenio mentioned, it's a question of patience. It's a question of kind of crafting and offering that is it has to be fit for that market. It is a question of creating something that has to be sometimes localized. So, for example, to be very practical, you have a software solution, and your client asks you to have it in Japanese because, for whatever reason, it has to be used only in Japanese. You as a provider, and you have all the software solution in English, you have to be ready to do that in Japanese. If that software solution requires to be present somehow with your client and provide customer service, in that case, of course, you have to be ready to do that. So it's a matter of understanding, I think, at the very beginning, how your client, and if we're talking about the Japanese side, is expecting to then interact with you. As Eugenio said, it's very good being helped by the center. It's even better be helped by a local partner. Somehow is right in the sense that, of course, if you have someone that's local, it is local, so it's native, and also can help you out maybe in finding additional opportunities. I would say that the situation of Eugenio is quite peculiar because he's been working with the center for a long time, and he was able to establish both channels. So he's indeed working with locals, with local entities, and with us at the same time. So he's, I would say, kind of a very typical example on how you can leverage all the opportunities that you have on the table to get the final result. And again, let me stress that once again, you have to be patient because it takes time to take decisions, and also to participate to projects is kind of the nature of things. For example, of if you're looking for a joint grant or something like that. But I think there are a lot of opportunities. Unfortunately, today is the very, very last opportunity to apply for ILS. ILS is another event that Eugenio mentioned, that as a center we follow and we work with pretty closely. ILS is an event that allows company to get in touch with some of the largest corporates in Japan to also facilitate matchmaking opportunities. Eugenio participated both online and physically during the last mission that we had in the end of November of last year, and he could tell firsthand. Eugenio, stop me if I'm wrong, but you could tell everyone that the difference is huge. Of course, if you're present, Eugenio was there with a colleague, and it was all the time talking to potential prospects and clients. He spent 3 days talking to people face to face when he was in Tokyo. So now the deadline is closed for ILS for me to recommend companies, but that is an annual event. So please, if you're interested also in that opportunity, which is not only space related, because it's open to all technologies, but if you're interested in that too, please be in touch. We can talk about that as well for next year.
And talking about,
sorry, let me add, Luca, that finding the local Japanese partners was enabled basically through our collaboration with the EU Japan Center and GNSS.Asia. Otherwise, it would have been really difficult to find a local partner. So I think it's a natural development. Let's say one starts using the services of agencies like the EU Japan Center, and then tries to find local partners there.
Thank you.
And since you were talking about participating in person to events, a question to both of you, like what advice would you give to companies who want to attend an event, how they should prepare to make sure that they can make the most of it, in addition to contacting the EU Japan Center?
Eugenio, you want to go first, and then?
Yeah, well, based on my experience there in Japan, as I said, I worked there for 5 years. So let's say, first thing that you should not forget, bring your business cards with you, because the exchange of business cards is, let's say, almost a ritual in Japan. It's it's expected to do it. Would be nice also to learn how to properly give your business card and take the business card of your counterpart. Learning a few words of Japanese, even just say hi, thank you, and so on, helps, because it shows them that at least you took the time to start, let's say, learning and understanding their culture. And of course, then, well, Japan is a very challenging market, because as you can imagine, especially the space tech field, there is a lot of well, there are several large industries, a lot of potential competition in Japan. So it would be wise to before going there, let's say, take a little bit of, let's say, of a look at the Japanese market, do some analysis on who your potential, let's say, complementary partners could be, and who your competitors could be. Again, it's true for all markets, but in Japan, as maybe also in the US, but it's very competitive, and it's not easy to, let's say, to penetrate. This is just from the top of my head. Then I don't know if Luca want to add something, and then if I can think of something else.
And I share what Eugenio said. I would say most important thing, I think, for us is trying to be active listeners. So really listen to what our counterpart is saying, and wait, and kind of analyze what you're being told, and try always to kind of wrap up a conversation, trying to have a very schematic set of bullet points and actionable items for the next meetings. And of course, being respectful, but it's true with everyone that we want to deal with, but prepared. That's the most important thing, I would say. Definitely prepared. And there are so many opportunities that we do have. Actually, there is a really wealth of opportunities that we have to also facilitate this kind of connections. And the call that you and Liz and Valentina are promoting is a typical example. because one of the things that you can do with your grants is to come to Japan or have a consultant in Japan. And Eugenio is proof that it's doable because he's a successful applicant. And so I think it's a combination of really connecting the dots, working with all the stakeholders involved, because Eugenio, of course, is successful, but at the same time, I was there like really every day sending messages to and leaving voice messages to Eugenio. Have you applied? Have you applied? Have you applied? So I was a little bit of a pain, but it worked. So I think the fact that we're also here today, you from France promoting this, me from Japan with the center, and Eugenio as a case, it's really proof that evidence that things can work out if we work together. So that's why when I said to all the participants, please be in touch, it's not because I have to say that. I'm really curious to know you all and work with all you all. So yes, this is the small advice.
Another thing that I could say is that for example, attending ILS in person was a great experience, but really without the support of the EU Japan Center, and again, I'm not saying this just because we are here now with Luca and so on, but for example, very practically, they provide people who can translate on the fly while you are talking, because you can learn maybe saying a couple of things in Japanese, but if the counterpart just speaks Japanese, English is not so common, so commonly used in Japan, so not so widely adopted, let's say. And so, for example, they provided great support in on-the-fly translation. We just talked in English or even in Italian, because there was a girl that even knew Italian, so we could talk in Italian and get translated on the fly into Japanese, and that helps a lot, especially with the, well, in our case, with the customers that are maybe are local stakeholders that are interested in their own infrastructure, structure, and so on. They don't really have a need to learn English, so that was fundamental. If we went there just by ourselves to ILS, we could just go to the conference without the EU Japan Center, but it would really not be the same, because probably we would have interacted with I don't know, 1/10 or 1/20th of the counterparts that we interacted with, thanks to the translation and the support of the center.
Yes, if I may add one thing, Eugenio, thanks for saying that. And also I have to say that this is something that we typically give to the participants, to all the missions. So when someone participates in a mission of the center, we do have a booth, we do have interpreters, we have colleagues, of course, that are bilingual, if not trilingual, if not more. So that's one, of course, of the main assets of joining the mission, that you are also being helped from this standpoint.
Thank you for your answers. Valentine, do we have other questions from the audience?
We don't have more questions. If you do have so, you can still ask them. But if you...
Well, if we covered all the questions, then we can wrap up now. Thank you again, Eugenio and Luca, for all the information you shared with us and all the advice. Thank you to all the participants for being with us today. As we mentioned earlier, you will get the presentation, so you will have the contacts if you want to get in touch with Eugenio or Luca or us afterwards. You will have all the information to do so. So thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.